This is just them being like, no, if he's president, nothing he can do is illegal, including murdering
if you're
people.
Star, they just let you do it, Sarah.
Yeah.
I would say this is the Access Hollywood interpretation of presidential authority. Right? Yeah. This is the...
If you're a president, they let you do it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Next Level. I'm JVL, here with my best friends, Sarah Longwell and Tim Miller of the Bulwark. Guys, a lot going on. We are just days away from the Iowa caucuses, and no one knows what's going to happen. Because in politics, 4 days is a lifetime. It's an eternity. Anything could happen. It's all going to come down to turnout. And we just don't know what's going to happen. And then after
finally,
that,
we get to move away from these polls and the punditry, and the people will get to have their say.
Real voting.
The people
That's
will
right.
have their
The
say.
people. God, I love the people. The people are the best. But we have some actual developments happening, including just moments ago, a CNN poll showing New Hampshire very, very tight as a tick. Sarah, would you like to... I want you to return to some hopium, and this is two polls now showing Nikki Haley very close in New Hampshire. Talk to me.
Number one thing, Chris Christie's got to drop out for Nikki Haley to win New Hampshire. You guys will remember in my 2024 predictions, I give this state to Nikki. I think she can do it. I think that she can win New Hampshire. The question then becomes, and I also think she'll come in second in Iowa. I think she can. I think she's going to come in just in front of DeSantis. And she'll go into New Hampshire with a little bit of momentum and certainly a lot of media buzz around her. The thing about New Hampshire, though, is that it is, I can't remember what the actual percentage of undeclared voters is, but it's like 40%. Like her margins are being made up by a kind of voter that does not exist in the other states. She does need Christie to drop out, I think, in order to actually beat Trump. She needs his roughly 15%. They're splitting up some of those undeclared voters. And so I don't know whether Christie would drop out. I wonder if this, I'm sure his phone is ringing off the hook today with this new CNN poll demanding that he drop out so that Nikki can get this momentum. But here's the thing. The Nikki case rests on one very specific, what would it be? A way of being, which is in 2008, Barack Obama beat Hillary Clinton in Iowa. That demonstrated that she was not inevitable, and the whole party moved to him. In you may remember, in 2020, Joe Biden won South Carolina, and a bunch of people dropped out, endorsed him. Whole party moved, said, "This is our guy." And so it rests on this theory that the Republican Party is like the Democratic Party, where Nikki will disrupt the narrative that Donald Trump can't be beaten, and that the party will move to her en masse and say, okay, this is our person.
Because they want normal. They want somebody who takes the Confederate flag down. They want somebody who's not going to call people vermin and who has sympathy for undocumented migrants who come here seeking asylum and, right? That's what they want. Is that what you hear in your focus groups? You talk to these voters all the time, Sarah.
This is where I think the theory falls apart, because when she goes into her home state with expectations high and Donald Trump wins by 30 points at a place where she has 100% name ID, I think that's probably where the race, that's where the hopium comes crashing down.
It's going to poke some holes in the hopium. Yeah, I was on with your friend Whit Ayers on NPR today.
I love Whit.
And sweet Whit Ayers. Oh, sweet Whit. Yeah. And, they had us on to do the, dire Donald Trump is inevitable Tim shtick and the Whit back and forth. And God love him. And he gave a Republican example similar to yours, kind of, Sarah, on the Democratic side. He went all the way back to the glory days of 1999 or early 2000. And how John McCain, George Bush, everyone had said George Bush had wrapped it up, and John McCain surged in New Hampshire to an 18-point win and changed the narrative. And quickly as Whit was talking, I pulled up the map again for 2000 to refresh my memory, and I was like, John McCain ended up only winning states where people have a New England accent, which I hear you've been trying on in some of your podcasts lately, Sarah. If you have a New England accent, or Arizona. Like, and he won one other state that also had independence. And McCain ended up winning 6 states, which would be, I think, amazing for Haley. A miracle for Haley to get 6. So, like, even in your best case scenario, a quarter century out of date, where the main protagonist is now dead, R.I.P. Like, even still, it isn't a path to victory. So, to me, the most interesting thing about Iowa in 5 days is just how dead it is. And like, the media doesn't know how to handle it. Nobody really knows how to handle it. Like, I'm on TV and we're kind of doing this pretend thing where it feels like, high school circuit TV, in high school. Remember when you had to be like, there's going to be a snow day on Thursday. I don't know. Did you guys have an AV team in high school and you had a fake reporter out there doing things? Like, it feels like that. And nobody's even going. I had somebody that called me this morning that said, "Hey, I'm trying to put together a group in Iowa. Like, could you point me to some people who are going?" And I texted around, and everybody's like, "Why would I go to fucking Iowa? It's freezing. The campaign's over." So, it doesn't feel like, I don't have the little butterflies in my belly like as a political junkie like I used to days before the first caucus.
Another problem here is that shortly after Iowa, Tiny D is probably going to get out. His 11% probably mostly goes to Trump. Vivek will have to get out. His 7% will go to Trump, right? So Haley's not the only one who has room to grow here. That's the other part. I mean, Trump actually has much more room to grow as the field consolidates than she does.
Yeah, the other thing, just about the Haley play that's interesting is Haley is able to find herself a lane, in open primary states with lots of undeclared, but also in part because DeSantis is in the race, right? He's not splitting with Trump because Trump's lead is so disproportionate. But like, if let's just say something happened to Trump, okay, the big thing. It's not like the party then turns around and goes, "Nikki is in second place and I take her." Like, it would go to DeSantis as much as they don't find him. He is much closer to where the party
Jr.
is.
Or Vivek.
Well, I'm just saying, if you went to somebody who was in right now, it would go to DeSantis. Like, I'm just saying, like, Nikki, there's not for Nikki to win. This is the problem. Is like, I can explain to people all day long what the path is. Like, let me tell you about the narrow path. Here's the theory of the case for the Nikki Bulls and whatever. But I can't, in good conscience, ever tell you that she could win this thing, because as much as I want her to. Because it would defy everything I know about Republican voters after 4 years of listening to them week in and week out, which is that they don't want somebody like Nikki Haley. They tell me that all the time. So unless I have, after all of these years of listening to people, totally been like, "Nope, I'm wrong. There's a revealed preference that's going to come out, and they're all going to go for Nikki." No, that's not what they say. They want to move on. They want a Make America Great Again candidate. They want America First candidate. They want somebody in the vein of Trump. They don't like these. When people talk about Nikki in the focus groups, I know I've talked to you guys about this, but they always say, like, "I don't trust her. She's establishment. She'd be a corporate." And you know what else they say? I've said this. I might have said this on this pod, so sorry if I have. But they say, "I don't hate her." Like, there's this big, "I don't hate her," which is like why her favorables are still okay. They don't hate her. This is what she gets. Unlike Chris Christie, it's what she gets for not going hard at Trump. She gets their not hate, but she doesn't get their liking, their affirmative.
Do they think
liking.
That she's eligible to be president or vice president? Because earlier in the day, somebody on the Truths pointed out that according to noted legal scholar blah, 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 because Nikki Haley's parents were not born in the United States, under the rules in the 12th Amendment, she is not eligible to serve. This is like a flat.
I'm sorry. I know that you do not want to give credit to noted legal scholar Paul Ingrassia. Paul Ingrassia graduated Cornell Law. That's not nothing. JVL, actually, you didn't get to tell it. What was your LSAT again?
172.
172.
I noticed that got cut from the intro we did.
Yeah, I heard
George
about
Conway.
That got cut from another episode, so I want to give you another chance. I don't know what Paul Ingrassia got on the LSAT, but I can tell you what year he graduated from Cornell. Any guesses?
67.
2022. Other way around.
He's a child.
2022. Yeah, he's a child. He's got a nice little bow tie on here, and he is the self-described author of President Trump's favorite Substack. Somehow I find it hard to believe that President Trump has a list of favorite Substacks, but
he's a big reader.
Yeah, he is
Loves
big
his
reader.
newsletters.
Yeah.
Can't wait to get the newsletters in his inbox every
Big
day.
consumer of newsletters, just like Sarah. And so Paul Ingracia is one that said that. His theory, I guess, of the case was that Nikki's parents did not. I don't know.
We're not
fill
born
out
in
all the
America.
forms correctly.
So your parents have to be born in America.
Not the
and
law.
you have to be
Actually,
born in
But if
America.
his parents were illegal, then maybe she doesn't file under birthright. There is the birthright citizenship. I'm not a constitutional scholar. George Conway is. Maybe that's a question for him. Next time Sarah gets to talk to him. But Paul Ingracia, birthright citizenship doesn't qualify for Nikki. But maybe does this show that Trump is quaking in his boots? I saw a tweet from a Nikki fan saying that Trump is quaking.
I don't think he's quaking. I do think he's taking Nikki a little seriously. Like they're dropping money on her now, like they did for DeSantis like 8 months ago, whenever they were trying to put him to bed. Because part of it is, I think Trump doesn't just want to win this primary. Trump wants to destroy all of them in this primary. And I think that they are right. Yeah. And I think right now he's thinking like, negatives could go higher. Let me do something about that. So I don't think he's quaking. I don't think he thinks, but I do think he's going to make sure he shuts off any avenue for them to get any oxygen whatsoever. He wants to just demolish them in this.
For sure. And it's the craziest thing. It's another thing that gives this whole caucus kind of an element of like pretend play, like when the other candidate, like it's not a real campaign, because there is no other analog to this. And I remember I was talking with our friend Dave Kochel in Iowa about this, about like the frustrating part about the Iowa campaign, right? Which is like, you cannot think of any other example in any other context, presidential, governor, House, state legislature, where there'd be one candidate who is leading it by a lot. And their message targeting their opponents is, you are ineligible. You are subhuman. Your parents are not even American. You are dropping like a bird. You are sanctimonious. You are tiny. You have a tiny penis, right? And then the people who are losing, their counterattack back is like, sir, chaos follows you. Like I think that you are the right man for the right time.
I promise I'll endorse you.
And I think you are the right man for the right time, but maybe right now, maybe your time has passed, maybe it hasn't, but maybe it has passed, and there's some things out of your control that have caused problems.
And you're innocent of all these phony charges against you.
And I'll pardon you when I'm president. Don't worry. Can I just say though? I gotta say something about this passive voice that she uses. The chaos. She goes rightly or wrongly. Chaos follows him. You all know what I'm talking about. She's like, this is part of her stump. Rightly or wrongly, chaos follows him. Just out of nowhere. How could it be following him? What
is chaos that
this?
Guy from the Allstate commercials?
I could be causing this to follow him around. And I just can't even, it defies logic.
Who is that for, by the way? Who is that even? Like, honestly, it'd be better just to not criticize him. Who is that for? Like, this whole thing that chaos follows. The donors.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's for the people who are in there to see him, where she's like, look, I'm just, you've seen her do this thing where she's like, the media really wants me to criticize Trump. Well, I'm not going to do that. And people clap. They're like, yeah, because this shouldn't be a mudslinging situation against each other. We're all on the same team. And, they're just there to get a taste of Nikki. They're a little Nikki curious. They want to see her. And so they want to make sure she's not dinging the big guy, but, hear what she's all about. And that's what she's doing right now.
It's so weird that the people clap, though. Because they don't clap the other way. It's not like Trump's out there like the mainstream media. Maggie Haberman wants me to attack Nikki, but I'm not going to do it. Like that would be an insane thing to hear Trump say.
They love it when he attacks
and they
them.
cheat. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I got a buddy in Tennessee who this weekend had door knocks from the Americans for Prosperity on behalf of Nikki in Tennessee, and they gave him a bunch of glossy literature which has no message behind it. Like, Nikki Haley is a good person. With a look at this picture of Nikki Haley, good, compassion, conservative, good. And he
tax
was like,
cuts.
There is 0% chance that she will be in the race
Economic
when
growth.
Tennessee does its primary. Like, what is Americans for Prosperity spending money for door knocks in Tennessee on Nikki Haley right now? It is, as you have written for us, Tim, like 3 different times, you might as well set your money on fire or give it to a food bank or something. it's a stunning
Maybe they're also giving
waste
to
of
food banks. I
resources.
hope so. It is confusing. It also like, and in contrast to, I mean, I've done my Coke rant a million times, so I'm not going to belabor that. But like, think about it in contrast to, just did you see the horrible story that Nancy French, David French's wife, shared this week about how they're
I
in
did.
Tennessee? Yeah, they're at the swim meet.
So terrible.
And some guy comes up to her and just starts trashing her David about how bad of a person he is at a swim meet. Right. Okay. So anyway, I share that because we had nothing but love for Nancy and David. But also,
Are you kidding? I missed this completely.
Yeah, check it out. It's on.
And it was like right after the
thread.
diagnosis, the breast cancer diagnosis.
It's on
So it
her
was like
threads
particularly
feed. Check it
painful.
out. Yeah, and send her
This
love.
guy on a rocket to the sun. My
Exactly.
God.
I tell the story just to say, like, that is, like, imagine that guy, maybe that person who has that same person's views, the jerk on the rocket to the sun, but maybe who isn't as much of a jerk personally, and somebody comes to the door and hands you that door knocker. It's just like, this is trash. This is trash, right? Like that is the other thing. Like that is a tactic. Again, when we go back to these state legislators, other races, right? Like these people all know Donald Trump, right? And to me, that is like the other thing that just is totally like makes these like lame, tepid attempts to go after him. Like I understand why they might make sense in a boardroom, but like in practice.
Let's move on. The defeated former President Donald Trump went on Lindell TV, which is absolutely not a Christian nationalist show.
It's my favorite television station.
And
they had prime positioning at the on the highway to hell at the TPUSA thing. I go down the escalator, and then it's like boom, Lindell TV right there.
It's just pillow ads all day long.
When there's a crash, I hope it's going to be during this next 12 months, because I don't want to be Herbert Hoover.
When there's a crash, I hope it's going to be during this next 12 months, because I don't want to be Herbert Hoover. The one president, I just don't want to be Herbert Hoover.
I have a couple observations here. First of all, I'm shocked that Donald Trump knows who Herbert Hoover
That
is.
was mine too. I also couldn't believe it. Somebody must have told him about Herbert Hoover.
Somebody had to put that in his ear.
Right. That's a weird, like, he doesn't know anything about history.
This reminds me of the time where I was on the plane with Jeb, and we were talking about anchor babies. And I was just like, fun fact, actually, most of the, folks that come to America to have babies, birth tourism are from Asia. And then then he gets asked about it in the press conference, and he shares that fun fact again. And I was like, why did I say that to him on the bear plane? This feels like that. Someone was talking to him about Herbert Hoover, and it got stuck in the old noggin.
But I have a question for you guys, because I think this is a problem for Donald Trump, because of course it's not a problem, but just play along with my bit anyway. Doesn't this statement implicitly acknowledge that things are very good? Because if things can crash, right, they're up here.
Well, explicitly acknowledges
if they can go down there and to crash, then they're all up here, aren't they? Right.
Before the crash bit, he talks about how the economy is currently running on the Trump fumes.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah,
it's the
which
Trump fumes still. Oh, okay.
Yeah. The fumes of his success we're running on.
Sarah, this is going to be like January 6th was Antifa, and also we're damn proud of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who's going to have it both ways. He's the economy. Well, the idea though, because that's not really the point, actually. The point is different. The point is this is a guy who is rooting for the American economy to crash, because this is the worst human alive. And he's like, there's going to be a crash. I just don't want it to happen. I just want it to happen now for political reasons. And I hope a lot of people suffer along the way, I guess. Probably people in red states who I don't like. Whatever.
What are your focus group people going to say about this?
They're not going to hear about it. This is going to be a 30-second story. This isn't going to matter at all.
I disagree with that. I think the Biden campaign is gonna use this, and I think that there's going to be a series of quotes like this that I don't know how much they will impact people, but I think that they will try to make it part of the broader narrative about Donald Trump only caring about himself, and I do think that's something that these guys are going to be very focused on. And it's going to be part of the Biden going to red areas and talking about the factories that have been built and the CHIPS Act and how Donald Trump might say he cares about you, but he only cares about himself. And I don't, will they do that effectively? I cannot say. I do not predict, but I do not think this. I don't think it's a accident that was pulled from the Biden HQ Twitter feed. And there was a series of other tweets about this, like about how Newt Gingrich was on Fox talking about how the Democrats or the Republicans should not do a deal with Biden on immigration because they can't give Biden any wins, and I think that a broader narrative about how the Republicans do not care about anybody, do not care about the country, do not care about the border, do not care about the economy. They're nihilists, anarchists, and Biden is actually trying to help people as something that they will try to put forward. And I think that Trump gave them a clip that will be used in television ads to that effect.
I'm not sure. So the main reason is that when I watched that clip, I read first whoever clipped it saying Trump is rooting for the American economy to crash. And so I turned on the clip, and the clip is not quite that. It is when the economy crashes, I hope it crashes in the next 12 months or something, right?
Yeah.
And so he is. If you are and I was sort of answering questions about JBL, thinking about Republican primary voters who would all be like, "Well, of course that's true. Yeah, we want the bad economy to be under Biden." Like they would not for 1 second dispute because they think it's all. Well, this is what a sophisticated political person would say. Like this is good political thinking. So it doesn't sound. I don't think
the economy is good.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. You're making a perfectly valid point. I think this is one where we're spending too much time on what I think in total was 27 words. That I agree with Tim. I agree with you, macro Tim. I don't think this clip is going to go beyond a Twitter cycle.
I mean, the deplorables was less than 27 words. I'm not saying this is deplorable, but sometimes certain things, please clap was 2 words. Sometimes certain things stick in people's head,
46%. What was the Romney?
Well, that was long. That's kind of long. The 47% that ended up being distilled to 2
it's like
words.
50
so maybe,
words.
Yeah, so maybe this can be distilled to Trump is rooting for the economy to crash. I don't know. I think Sarah is making an interesting point. That is something that I am quasi obsessed with, which is how everybody's a political pundit now.
Yeah,
this is a quasi new thing, right? This idea that is like a normal thing. That I would like the economy to be bad right now because I want my team to win. That's like quasi new. I do not
think that's true.
You don't think?
I feel
that's
like
true?
It's been that way.
Do you think that in the 1996 campaign, the Dole people were hoping the Bill Clinton economy would crash? I don't know.
I feel like starting in the 2000s at least, that's how the world.
Sure, and I think
worked.
that this has grown, particularly in the internet era for sure. But I don't know. I think that it is Brian Bueller has an interesting media criticism that I just think is worth stating. That it's people. I don't think that the way that the media talks about politics has updated to the way that people actually act about politics in real life. You know what I mean? To do this whole fake, the Republican, it's all fake. It's all
we have.
What? We've updated the Bulwark.
We've updated how we.
Yeah, we have. That's why we're talking about. That's why we're talking about this right now. But the other media, it's like it would be biased to say the Republicans are rooting for the economy to fail. When it's no, the Republicans are rooting for the economy to fail. That's just a fact. That's not bias. That's a fact.
Yeah, I mean, this is reality. This is where JBL, I think there's a JBL place where he's right and a place where I was right, always on the economy, which is that there are people across the political spectrum who feel the pain of the current economy of inflation, who talk about it and are just expressing a thing that they experience. And then there's a group of people that revel in the bad news about the economy and would never tell you that the economy was in a good place because it is important to them politically that it be bad, right? That you have to you have to maintain that, and that's why pedophiles are important. That's why it has to be a catastrophe. It has to be there's an implicit understanding among the Trump world that Biden stuff has to be a catastrophe for Trump to win. And so you've got to constantly be elevating the level of catastrophic that it is. That's why they say Biden's a rapist and all this other stuff, because you've got to push it to the place where it's so bad. But let me just say, this idea that people as pundits, it's not just that. I mean, Trump's base, we've never seen anything like it. And they are experts on Trumpology, right? They think Trump plays 4D chess and they won in that game too. And so, like, I hear them say, that's why it's all like Antifa false flags. Like, this is a group of people, and it's quite large. It's like half the Republican Party is incredible. There's like the part that's just not paying attention. They get dragged along by these forces, right? That I talk about a lot, that like we think about whether or not you can persuade them. There's the other half, though, but they're deep on it. They're the ones who are super practiced on. You're like, but what about this? And they're like, oh, well. You're like, oh, well, Trump's rooting for the economy to crash. And they're like, no, he's not. He just knows that the economy's bad, and he wants Biden to eat it while he's there rather than having to eat it when Trump's president, and he's got to deal with the sucky economy that Joe Biden gave him. Like, I can fill in what these voters would say about this in a heartbeat.
I think that's right. Let's close the loop on this. Like my just update. I was trying to think back to 1996 because I was alive then, and I'm thinking about my father, who's like a partisan Republican, but like not a Fox News watcher. And like, I think that at that time in the mid 90s, I know this actually, I can remember having these conversations. So it's like, he would be like, oh, Clinton's taking credit for this economy, but it's really the Reagan aftershocks, right? Like that would have been hit. And that was a common, I think, talking point, right? In the 90s among people in our circles, right? But I think to go to that next step further from that to, and so I hope the economy crashes this year so that Bob Dole can get back in and make things better. Like that would be an absolutely deranged opinion that like would never have crossed my father's mind in 1996. And I think that is true still today. There's some people who like do not live and breathe the stuff, but I think the percentage of people for whom like the team sport element of this is so great that they would gladly suffer pain in order to serve the broader goal of the other side suffering pain. I think that has gotten a lot worse. JVL,
someone's going to have to go through the Nexus transcripts on this, but I am 98% positive that this is a sentiment which has recurred like every 4 years, again, at least since 2000, maybe since 1998. Believe me, out in Republican world in the late 90s, I think some very large proportion of people would have been thrilled to have traded a recession to get rid of Bill Clinton because they hated him so much. They invented conspiracies where he was running a cocaine dealing operation out of an airstrip in Mena, Arkansas, and he had Vince Foster murdered. And
to think they had the real Jeffrey Epstein that they could have just been talking about the whole time they were making up
totally.
Stuff.
All right, let's move on from this. Let's talk about a word from our sponsors, Timothy.
Yeah, let's do that. ZBiotics. Let me tell you, if there's a surefire way to wake up feeling fresh after a night of drinking, it's with ZBiotics. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to take ZBiotics pre-alcohol, your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. I guess I really should have done that. It was unexpected for me this weekend. I was not planning on going out. But at the last moment, I was invited to a gay bar crawl that was insurrection themed. Gonna let everybody kind of decide for themselves what the play on words might have been there. But let me tell you, I was wishing I had done
I see what you did there.
You go. I wish I had done my ZBiotics, but I was caught off guard and could not have it as my first drink of the night. Anyway, this year, I want to form more sustainable and better drinking habits. This is not an all or nothing approach. ZBiotics allows me to enjoy nights out in moderation while working towards my goals. Go to zbiotics.com/nextlevel to get 15% off your first order when you use Next Level at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/nextlevel and use the code NEXTLEVEL at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode and my good times.
This week, Kevin McCarthy, my Kevin, your Kevin, our Kevin.
He can leave Congress and be a straight shooter now.
A straight shooter and just tell people what he thinks. And he gave his first interview to Aaron Ross Sorkin, and we have a couple clips. Sebastian?
The thing I would say that how would he govern? Well, I would hope he would even be better than he was before, because we watched what he did on policy where the economy was stronger. We didn't have war in Europe. Our border was secure. I believe at the end of the day, when you're going to a ballot, People are looking at how does it affect them personally, and they're watching from a gas price, that's the decision they're going to make. I believe people get better with 10,000 hours. I also believe people get better when they get humbled, and from the aspect he didn't win the last election, so there is improvement there, hopefully. It also is who gets around you. Look at the tax policy that he was able to create. Look at the aspect of rebuilding the military at the same time. Look at the ability that we are able to do.
I can't do any more of this.
Is that
People
a
are
pitch for
watching
him
that
to
on
be?
CNBC.
He's making a pitch for himself to be chief of staff, right? He wants a job in the next Trump administration.
10,000 hours. It's just a Malcolm Gladwell. It's a tipping point situation.
That's
10,000 hours of practice. I'm just reading some
Malcolm
self-help
Gladwell.
books.
I hope, Malcolm, you feel good to know that Kevin McCarthy read about your book. He didn't read the book, but he read about your book somewhere, and he figured, I can use this and turn it into a Trumpist talking point. That's great.
What does that do?
Because he just got better. All Trump
You
needed
got better
was
at
reps.
presidenting. Yeah, reps at presidenting.
Yeah, I got better. It's like swinging the old golf club. You know, the more reps you get, the better, the straighter it's going to go down the fairway. I do wonder how the 10,000 hours theory squares with the January 6th insurrection behavior, because you would think that Trump would have been peaking at the end of his presidency.
So 10,000 hours, I went and did a little bit of math. I believe that's 416 days.
Yeah.
And so,
Really?
that means that really Trump should have started getting better by early 2018. And it in fact seems like things got worse as we went. I mean, that's if you're taking Kevbo literally and not seriously. Yeah. He also then goes on to say, it wasn't in the clip, that, a lot of it is personnel and who you surround yourself with, and Trump's really going to do a great job. This flies in the face of everything we've heard so far about Trump.
I got a great
it's just
personnel
an
anecdote I
amazing
learned
thing.
from Bannon, by the way. You're going to like this. You're going to like this. When I was there at the TPSA, he was telling me that, one of the names the media doesn't get is Ratcliffe, John Ratcliffe. It's going to be in a high security post. He's in the first administration. And I was like, why? I was like, did he not ever speak out against January 6th? He's like, no, he kept things close to his vest. But the thing people don't know about him is that he's a 2 handicap. Trump likes that, likes to have somebody around as good as he is on the golf course. So this is the kind of team that he's going to put together. I think Kevin maybe appreciates that. There's going to be some full-on insurrectionists, a few white nationalists, the Mike Pillow podcast, and then a couple of desperate has-beens like Kevin McCarthy and a few good golfers. Maybe get
Good
Greg
golfers,
Norman
a good
in
golf
there.
team. Yeah. Who's that? There's one of the golfers
team
that
of
goes to
rivals.
Mar-a-Lago all the time.
Yeah,
Nicholas.
Jack
Daly,
Nicklaus.
isn't it?
Jack Nicklaus.
Nicholas, too?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Mar-a-Lago
Don't
is
have-
top.
don't have any
Live
heroes.
America. Sarah, do you have any thoughts about Mike Kevin here? And what's his angle? I thought he doesn't have to do this anymore. He can just make money. And so he doesn't have to go and do
This is how he makes
Trump's
money.
shine box anymore, right? He could
I don't-
just go out and be a good Republican on corporate boards.
Kevin's not that old, and I think that Kevin McCarthy thinks Trump can win the next election, and he can be the new Mark Meadows. And I hope he has good lawyers. But these guys are so addicted to the power, right? He needs a next act. He has to cleanse his legacy and have a next act to do something big. He didn't trade all this capital for Trump at 58 to not have any, not to be in the White House again, not to have some. Yeah, that's what he's doing.
And even if it's just money, this was Reince. So Reince left. It's why is Reince still doing his monthly Hannity circuit? Shining up Trump. And it's because the access that he's selling is to MAGA.
Yeah.
Kevin is not like John Boehner. John Boehner left in good standing among people on both sides, and he can go get hired by the pot people or the crypto people, whoever, and he can go call up his buddy Steny Hoyer, and they can smoke a cig together and chat it up, and that brings value. Kevin, as we saw in the votes on the House floor, doesn't have any bipartisan value, right? The Democrats were happy to throw him overboard. They see him as disgusting, rightly. And so Kevin's access is tied to the fact that he's still in the good graces of Trump. So he does still have to shine Trump's shine box. And I guess he could go not do lobbying. He could go like whatever, be a hedge fund person or something, you know, find some stupid
He's
rich
not
person
smart
to
enough
give
for
him
that.
money. But yeah.
He's not bright enough.
But if
for
you
that.
want in the
Sorry,
game,
Tim.
he's still he's still got to be in good graces.
He's also
with the big
look. I
guys.
guess and my guess is that right. What does he need to do? He needs to soothe the nerves of donors and corporate interests about how Trump. No, man, you know, you guys don't have to worry about Trump. I got Trump. You know, Kevin's just been peddling this for such a long time. Like, don't worry about these crazy people. I got him in control. Look what I did with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I brought them, you know, to heal by putting my arm around them. And like, don't worry, I'll be there to keep a steady hand on this thing for you guys. You big money interests who don't like the chaos. Kevin's their guy.
He does this after Trump just lets him drown. That's again just one more Republican who Trump destroys their career, and their response to that is, "Got to keep helping him. Got to keep helping him. Maybe he'll let me back inside."
You know, I don't want to preempt anything in your Bannon lore, Tim, but like Bannon got hung out to dry so hard by Trump, right? And he still
Floppy
makes it,
Steve.
Yeah, he still makes this living off of
Oh yeah,
just
no,
nothing but
trust me,
track
Bannon
service.
is pathetic. I don't know, Bannon. I mean, Bannon's gross and pathetic too. But I guess that like the Kevin situation is different because it's like there's something about owning your patheticness. You know, Bannon is like I'm just swimming with the deplorables in the bog. You know, like I'm just fucking down here in the bog, and I smell like them, and these are my people, and like I'm going to, you know, whatever. If I have to just put on this shit-eating grin and pretend that I think that the Dominion voting machines are broken to have Mike Lindell keep giving me money, I'll do it because this is my shtick, and I've got a couple things that I really believe in that I'm gonna, you know, fight for and push for, and then it's just like a big WWE power game where I can dominate the Kevins of the world. It's like. They're both pathetic in that sense, yeah, and they're both faking it because you have to be with Trump to have any power. But the Kevin thing is just like stands out in its patheticness, but because of the way that he just gets overthrown, and he has to continue to fake it and be just this husk of a human who like goes and makes the rounds in New York and pretends like everything is okay after he was just, you know, like completely embarrassed and stripped naked in front of the whole world. Like, I don't know. Like,
Do you
that's
think
pretty
do you
sad.
think like Kevin and Elise and like that there's like a group of them that get together as like a sympathy group or like one of those where they get together to all, you know,
You
talk to
can't
each
trust-
other.
No, they must hate each other.
Yeah, no trust. Well, I mean, maybe Kevin has a couple of buddies, like him and Jeff Miller or whoever get drinks together, but like him and Elise, I mean, if I was Kevin, I'd be worried that Elise is taping me. Who taped him? And who taped him and sent the tapes to Jonathan Martin for the last book? That was the other thing that we didn't play in that clip. Like Andrew Ross Sorkin was telling Kevin, like, replaying him back his January 2021 statements about how we need to move on from Trump and that were taped and leaked. And Kevin's like, I don't remember saying that. It's like, okay. So no, I don't think that I think we can take some pleasure in knowing that they don't actually have a support group. I don't think.
Yeah.
For this.
All right, final topic. Today, down at the D.C. Circuit Court, a 3-judge panel held a hearing on the Trump claim of total immunity, which I think sounds like the Steve Carell "I declare bankruptcy" from The Office. During the course of this, Judge Florence Pan, this is amazing, asked Trump's lawyer, could a president order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? And Trump's lawyer, D. John Sauer, said, well, you know, I mean, he'd have to be impeached. Of course, he'd be impeached and removed first, and then you know, they could do it. And she was like, no, I didn't ask about impeachment removal. Just pretend there's no impeachment and removal. Could a president do this? And he was like, well, qualified yes. It's an amazing exchange in which the basic answer, I mean, his qualified yes was a qualified no to her question because they went on back and forth a little bit more. but basically could not bring himself, because the logic of Trump's position is, yes, the president can do whatever the president wants to do. Then they can't just say, no, Joe Biden could not have SEAL Team 6 just assassinate Donald Trump and, and be loosey-goosey and trouble-free afterwards. But they don't know how to, fully say that out loud like this. It's an amazing
Have you guys ever
moment.
seen Frost Nixon? The movie about, okay, so in Frost Nixon, the denouement, the thing that happens is where Frost gets Nixon to say, no, I'm saying that when it's not illegal when the president does it. And this was the stunning admission in the movie, right? This is he gets him to say that he doesn't believe the president can be held accountable for anything. And this is now just the casual position of Donald Trump. That no, he should be able to do whatever he wants with total immunity, and they're in court trying to argue it. And it's one of those things, I did this legal podcast, it was in the TNL feed with George Conway, because I oftentimes find myself trying to figure out, untangle all the different legal things. This one's an easy one. Maybe I'll do one with George, but on this immunity thing, but this is just them being no, if he's president, nothing he can do is illegal, including murdering
if you're
people.
Star, they just let you do it, Sarah.
Yeah.
I would say this is the Access Hollywood interpretation of presidential authority. Right? This is the...
If you're a president, they let you do it.
Yeah.
I have an observation, and I just, in case that the NSC or anybody is listening, I'm not calling for this, and I'm not rooting for it in any way, but by this definition, Joe Biden could kill Donald Trump right now if 34 senators were okay with it. That is the stated legal position of Donald Trump, that he could be killed by Joe Biden with no repercussions as long as 34 Democratic senators did not impeach and convict Joe Biden for the extrajudicial killing. So I just think that's something to sit with, because
Or, Tim, Joe Biden could kill Trump and enough senators so that he couldn't be removed from office because they wouldn't be able to have quorum.
They could start
now
killing
you're,
enough
now
senators
you're
too,
thinking.
also
now you're
okay.
Thinking. Yeah,
Now we're really at galaxy braining this whole thing. But I think that it's interesting, just in the actual, it's another example of them revealing that they don't even actually really believe what they're saying about the deep state, right? All of this deep state nonsense. Oh, they've been targeting us. Oh, they're out to get us. Oh, whatever. It's the deep state hasn't done anything. Okay, the deep state hasn't done anything, and maybe the deep state should be doing more to target Donald Trump. Not extrajudicial killings, obviously, but they've
Tim,
done a horrible job at all of this. Everything is yielded nothing. Donald Trump became president anyway, and if they were really concerned that the deep state was targeting him in a real way, then they would not want to be advocating for presidential immunity for presidents. Right? If Joe Biden was really masterminding, the Biden crime family was really masterminding an illegal plot against Donald Trump, why would they want immunity for presidents? They would want to hold the head of this crime family accountable so that he would be locked up. But they don't actually care about that. They don't want it because they don't believe that it's true.
But Tim, what Biden is doing then as the head of the crime family in his persecution of Donald Trump is actually legal.
Is legal, right?
And so what's the complaint? I don't understand. If everything Trump has done is perfectly legal and kosher, then how is it that Joe Biden is unfairly and criminally targeted? That doesn't. But again, this is the economy is terrible and also it's about to crash. The January 6th, there was nothing happened there except for some great patriots came and took a tour. And also it was BLM and Antifa and the FBI agents setting us all up. It's all both of these things. And either none of these people really believe it, so they're just all nihilists, or they're forking morons.
Oh, and
They're
Mostly
just
A.
idiots.
yeah, but a
Or
lot
both.
of A.
I don't know if that's necessarily an either or. There's some and in there for sure. But
Well, at
no,
the
it's
rank and
mostly
file,
both.
though.
It's mostly the beginning. There's no genuine belief in any of this, right? There's no genuine belief that any of this is wrong. There's just convenient arguments for the moment. And
Is
this
that
was,
true,
we didn't
Sarah,
get to
at
at
the
least. We're
level
going to
of
talk about at
individual
least.
voters?
What's that?
I want to know from Sarah. Do you think that's true at the level of like actual voters?
No,
Do you think they don't believe any of this stuff?
I think that they believe certain things with evidence and conviction. And then I think there's a whole bunch of other things that they just don't understand well enough and they can be persuaded at any given moment about. And this is where I think the Republicans, and by Republicans, I really mean sort of a right-wing infotainment media, does a really good job of locking in on an excuse or a rationalization for everything. And that's what there's not a linear consistency for people because they tend to not have, these people are so much less ideological than conservatives used to be, right? So there used to be an intellectual through line in terms of what people believed. And so you were trying to stay consistent with that. Now you're just trying to stay consistent with Trump. And so there's a whole ecosystem dedicated to helping you, normie, not normie, but you, Trump lover, to understand how to push back against any perceived inconsistency, right? And that's why you would say something is different in this case, or Donald Trump. This is why if the DOJ is out to get him. Okay, well, what do you think about them prosecuting Hunter Biden? Well, it's just an example of how guilty Hunter Biden is that they have to do this. But that does, that's what I mean is that they're not looking for a logical consistency.
Can I give one more example of this, a conservative infotainment that's also a little tease for our Sunday show this week? I wanted to do Epstein. It's like we've done no Epstein on this podcast, and we have all this breaking news on Epstein, and so I've been kind of going back and reading all of this and kind of getting prepared for to do a Sunday thing about Epstein. And like the funny thing, funny is not the right word, but like there's no reason why like Epstein killed himself conspiracy should necessarily code right as a right-wing conspiracy. I mean, when Epstein died, like the person that gave him the easy deal, the sweetheart deal, was Alex Acosta, Trump cabinet member. The attorney general was Bill Barr, who had been at a law firm with some of Epstein's lawyers, and the president was Donald Trump, who had hung out with Epstein.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's like, I'm not saying that Donald Trump killed Epstein, but like that's a fact set that in some world you could look at that and say, oh man, sure seems like Donald Trump was covering up some sex crimes from people on his side, but yet somehow the conservative infotainment media is able to just kind of wash that stuff away so much and just be like Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, like Pizzagate, lib sex trafficking, pedophiles, Epstein killed himself, deep state, and like all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is the Democrats that are behind this, and it's like, well, how were the Democrats behind this? Donald Trump was president, Bill Barr was the attorney general, and so that's just another example of this where like the details don't really have to matter.
That's because there's asymmetric shamelessness, right? So the Democrats recognize that Bill Clinton is probably, this is like, they don't go hard at Donald Trump, right? Yeah, there's like, they're like, oh, Bill Clinton might have been a bad guy here. And so they perform differently than Republicans who are like, who cares about Trump? Like, you got to just make it about Clinton. You just got to say all these other things over and over again. And that's, there's asymmetric shamelessness.
Yeah, it's like the Fox headline that was like the new leaks from the Epstein things that like listed all these names, and it was like Trump's name wasn't in there. It's like, really, guys? It's like David Copperfield, Stephen Hawking, Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew. It's like, was there any other big names that were mentioned? Anyway.
The people are the worst. All right, guys, good show. Exceedingly long show. We got to get out of here. Stay tuned
Caucus
for more excellent
Monday.
stuff. We're going to be doing special show
Next time
Monday,
we talk, we're going to know.
Special show Tuesday. We will finally find out what the people say. The people are going to use their voice.
This show's live. We have to tell them this show is live next Tuesday in the morning.
We'll be doing a live show next Tuesday morning.
So keep an eye out for that on our Twitter feeds. We'll be telling you when.
Can I tell you that doing this show with George, which I think we're going to do some more of though, help me understand what it's like to be Tim Miller, because there's like a number of comments that are just like, let George talk, because I was like interrupting him to be like, can you explain what you just said, or like, let me recap this, and everyone's just like, you just let him talk. George is a genius. I don't even. I was like, okay, just trying to
say
reverse
somebody,
sexism.
as somebody whose job is to sit back and not talk and ask questions, your interrupting questions for George were perfectly placed.
Thank you,
And
JVL.
you made that show flow really, really well. I actually meant to say this to you on Slack. You did a masterful job on that interview.
Oh, thanks, dude. Appreciate it. Well, not all the YouTube commenters thought so.
Yeah. Well, see,
I'll
I
interrupt as
actually
much as I
read
want.
and watch all of your content, Sarah. Did you like my newsletter today, by the way? Guys,
Yes.
we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.